The other thing I would learn is the support. I did not realize, for instance, Hanger Clinic or Amputee Coalition has so much support that I didn't even realize even existed, right? There was a whole community that I didn't even realize that existed.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today I welcome Karlene Martinez. I met Karlene at a great event. It was at Empower Fest just a few weeks ago here in Arizona, but also met her at a very cool organization called Ability 360, where we're all shooting hoop. It was a lot of fun. I had a really good time doing it. Karlene, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about you. I know a little bit already, but we always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd love the audience to learn more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I became an amputee almost 4 years ago. I went into septic shock on December 17th, 2021. And in so they gave me medicines and had to put me in a coma and everything where for about 2 weeks I was in a coma. And when I woke up, I had necrotic tissue all over my body. So meaning it was almost like gangrene all over my body. And that was due to some medicines. In order to keep me alive, they gave me something called pressors, which takes blood flow from your extremities and pump it to your brain and your heart. In doing so, it creates gangrene pretty much. So I had it on my fingers, my feet, my toes. And I had to be on the burn unit for about 3 months, just taking care of those. So one of the reasons why I went into septic shock was because I had strep throat. So strep throat, if you don't take care of it, it actually turns into almost like a flesh-eating bacteria. And so it was like I was burned all over my body. So in those 3 months, we were taking care of the wounds, trying to fight infections, just because I was completely covered. And finally, in those 3 months, I also did get amputations, which was most of my toes on my left foot, half of my foot on my right. So if that makes sense, there's just the top part of my foot, all of my fingers except for my thumbs, and a lot of debriding on most of the wounds. So I was lucky enough to have probably about 5 surgeons in one surgery to just take care of everything that needed to be done all at one point. How the Lord worked that out, it was awesome. To get 5 surgeons all in one place was incredible. So I was very lucky to get that done. And once that was done, I was on the road to recovery. And I spent some time at physical rehabs and still getting tended with wound care. And it was kind of during COVID still times. So a lot of the rules were still in place where I wasn't allowed to see my kids. I wasn't allowed to see my husband. I am a boy mom. I have a now 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. But at that time, he was 4 and maybe 2, probably almost 2. And so the rehab actually taught me how to change diapers. We practiced feeding babies with a bottle and just stuff like that with the new type of conditions that I was under. And so I really appreciated. I actually went to Encompass here in Tucson, and they worked with me so well. They finally, because I couldn't see the kids, they finally let me go to a park and let them adjust with a physical therapist on how to handle me, because I was still covered in wounds. So they wouldn't just jump on me and, touch everything and stuff like that. So they really helped me. It was only a 2-week probably portion with them, but it was the most intensive. I learned how to do everything in those 2 weeks. So they were really well with me.
And that was Encompass Health, you said, correct?
That was Encompass Health, yes.
Do they also have in Tucson, do they have a amputee support group at Encompass Health?
They do. Actually, I believe Hanger is the one that makes that support channel and stuff like that. Because they do have a section, I believe, in one of the Encompasses here in town, because there's a couple that they're involved with. They're actually inside the same building, and so it makes it easier that way. And I don't know if you've ever met Norma.
I have not.
She is actually one of the ambassadors. I'm not sure what the exact title is, But for a hanger, and she's the one that runs those, and she's amazing. That's another one you should look up too.
Well, that's good to know. So if you're in the Tucson area and you want to find a support group, look for Encompass Health and Norma. Is that correct?
Yes, Norma.
And I'll say this for the ones up here, because we're actually in the same state for everyone to know. I'm in the Phoenix area. You're in Tucson, about an hour and a half away. I was going to try to get down there to do this in person, but logistics got in the way. But to talk about Encompass Health up here, there's one in Mesa that's handled by Lise Lindsay, fantastic amputee support group. And on the west side is Britt Kimball. So those are two in the Phoenix area that I could recommend. And certainly now we have one in Tucson. But as you go through and I listened to your story, at what point did you realize, hey, there might be a problem? Because I don't know whether you're in and out of consciousness or how that part of the story went.
Yeah, so I felt really sick, right? And I ended up going to a hospital, and I literally told them, they have it in the notes that like I feel like I'm dying and something is seriously wrong. Unfortunately, I was already in sepsis. My heart rate was, I don't know how to say this right, tachycardia. And
I
my blood
believe you.
pressure, yes, my blood pressure was already 100 or under 100, excuse me. And unfortunately, they discharged me with nothing, pretty much.
Wow.
About 7, 8 hours later, my husband ended up having to call the ambulance because I just was in and out of consciousness. I couldn't really even walk, move, nothing. So when the ambulance came, they checked everything, and my oxygen was in the 60s. My
Oh
blood
boy.
pressure had to have been 40 over 20, something ridiculous. And I remember them, because I was in and out of consciousness, I don't remember too much. I remember being concerned, making sure that the kids didn't hear the ambulance come because it was about 2 in the morning, maybe 12 in the morning, something like that. And I didn't want them to see them take me away. And so I remember getting in the ambulance, and then the next thing I know, I live under by a freeway. And so it's like an underpass. And I remember hearing, "We have a code 3, we have a code 3, turn on the lights, turn on the lights." And I just remember hearing the lights turn on and then us driving really fast. The next memory I have is a doctor was, I want to say, violently shaking me, but they were just trying to wake me up. So that way I could say goodbye to my husband.
Oh boy.
So at that point, they said, "We're going to have to put you on the ventilator. And so you need to say your goodbye to your husband." And forgive me because this story always messes me up every time. I remember my husband just looking around because at this point, there's doctors everywhere in the room. There has to have been 20, 30 people in the room. And my husband's like looking around and he looked so confused. He didn't know what was happening. And I remember this, the last vision I have of my hands, I put my hand on his face like this. And I said, "Everything's going to be okay. I love you." And he didn't even know what to say. He was just so confused. Then the next thing I know, I'm having literal nightmares that now I realize they were nightmares. But when I was dreaming or hallucinating, however you want to say it, on the ventilator, um, I was being tortured for about 2 weeks. I was always on the run from these creatures. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just awful. I was always being on the run. I was always trying to hide. It was like a constant chase all the time for just 2 weeks. So then finally I woke up and I still had the breathing tube in my mouth. So I couldn't speak, but I remember seeing my husband and him just crying. And I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And I'm still on a lot of drugs at this point from being in a coma. So I'm still hallucinating, and I'm thinking stuff is happening when it's not. Even to this day, I'm like, did this happen? They're like, no, that was just your dreams. Don't even worry about that. And so I really dealt with a lot in that 2 weeks, just mentally trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah.
And during this time, my kids still can't come and visit because the COVID rules, which I understand. And plus, I probably wouldn't have want them to see me in a coma anyways. And the doctors are coming in. They still try to figure out how best to handle my situation because, again, I was covered in burns, and a lot of them were infected. Um, there was just so many different complications going on. My husband said that the doctor told him that it was a literal science experiment. We're gonna try this, and then if something else comes along, we'll try and fix that, and just take it one step at a time. And so I was in the hospital for about 3.5 months. Surprisingly, that's all that I was in there for, considering the condition that I was in. And so then they discharged me to a facility, and I begged and begged. I talked to, I believe her name was Dr. Barbara. She was over at Hanger Clinic there. I can't remember her name. I mean, Hanger, Encompass Clinic.
Okay.
And I begged her. I said, I want to get home. I want what's as soon as I can get home. And she's like, girl, you're gonna be here for a while. I don't know what you're thinking. I said, you know what, bet. Let's make a bet that if I start walking and doing everything I need to in 2 weeks, she'll let me go home. She's like, okay, well, we'll see. I don't think she believed that I would try that hard. So at that time, I still had my leg. Yes, I had half of a foot, but I still had my right leg. And so then I was able to get out in 2 weeks, and I just start trying to learn how to live life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
A whole new way. And so then by August of 22, yes, of 22, I ended up having still a sore from all those wounds, which got infected and into the bone on the heel of my right foot.
Wow.
So I ultimately had to make a decision on whether or not to keep trying IV antibiotics because we had already done that. We had done fish skin, sheepskin, all these different types of skins to help it recover, to breeding. I probably had 7 surgeries before we even got to the point where it's like, okay, we need to make a decision. And I was so tired of surgeries and everything by then. I said, you know what? Just, I hate to sound gory, but cut it off and let's move on. I'm over it. So that's what we did. And so by, I believe it was December of 2022, I was up trying to start walking because the leg had healed. I got a prosthetic by then. So I'm trying to walk, trying to go to the gym. Things are going great. And I'm like, yes, I'm finally moving on. I get sick with the flu in January of 23, and all is well. It was kind of the first big sickness since everything happened, and all is well. It was hard to recover, but I recovered. By March of 2023, all of a sudden I woke up and I'm having trouble moving my limbs, and I can't figure out why. They just felt heavy. I don't know exactly how to explain it. It wasn't so much that like they were sore or anything like that. It was something like my brain wasn't connecting to my limbs to move it. So I still going through life, and I'm still doing my normal routine. I went to the gym because I stopped doing PT only because I got tired of squeezing a ball. I wanted something harder. So I got a personal trainer at the gym, and I went to the gym one day and I was driving while this was going off, and all of a sudden I couldn't move my foot to hit the brakes. Luckily, I was in a parking lot and there was no one around, but I freaked out and I don't know why I can't lift up my foot. So then about a day later, my husband's having to transfer me to certain things just because I didn't have the strength. It was really weird. And then it got to the point where I could no longer lift up my arms to wrap my arms around him to move me.
Wow.
So at that point, I said, we have to go to the hospital. Something's really going on. We go and they find out that I'm going through something called Guillain-Barre syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I have not.
It's usually when people get shots or something like that, and you have an adverse reaction to it, and you become paralyzed.
Wow.
So I was becoming paralyzed, and I didn't have any shots. I didn't have anything like that, but I did have the flu. So I don't know if that had something to do with it or not. And within probably 1 week from the symptoms starting to the end, I was put back on the ventilator. And I had begged to not be put asleep because of the horrific dreams that I had the first time, and it already took a long time for me to like figure out what was real and what wasn't. I didn't want to go through that again.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave me a trach, and because at that point I became so paralyzed, my diaphragm could no longer move my lungs to breathe.
Oh boy.
So I was completely paralyzed from the neck down. And once again, I can't talk because I have a trach. I'm having to give eye signals to a alphabetical sheet and have my family try and spell out words so I can communicate. It was one of the most, I shouldn't say the most, but one of the most awful experiences. It wasn't so much that this was happening, it was that this was happening again.
Yeah.
I'm helpless again, and that's where it really shook me because I thought I was done with all the traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And then now I was stuck paralyzed for 5 months. And they
Five
say that
months.
5 months I was in a bed, cannot move, cannot breathe on my own, nothing. Cannot eat on my own. I just deteriorated. I was just stuck in bed. People had to wash me, clean me, do everything for me because the only thing that would move
Mm.
was my head. So what they would do is like, if I needed a nurse, they got me this certain call button and I would go like that because that's the only thing to hit it. Because that's the only thing that I could get someone's attention with. Like I was just completely stuck. So for 5 months, that really just took a toll on my body. So here I am trying to recover from all these amputations and trying to gain my strength back and learn how to live life again with all these different changes. And it's almost a whole year I'm having to build it all up again. I was completely paralyzed for 5 months, but it took a couple months after that to regain strength. I think I
Yeah.
went down to like 90 pounds. And obviously I got that back. So but uh to regain the strength and everything, it took a lot of effort. And even after the 5 months is when I could move a little bit of my leg, I could move a little bit of the other leg. The next day the arm would like start to twitch, and so it was a long, very long process. And during that time, I was stuck in a acute center, which is not so much a rehab, it's almost like a nursing home because you need more medical care than most, right? So here I am. I think I was 31 at that time
Mm.
and in a nursing home. Can't see my kids. Only one person can come at a time. And my husband, I was begging him to always come and visit. And I hate that I was doing that because he was trying to manage a job, children, young children, their schooling, their homework, and then a wife that's in a nursing home. So it was a lot for 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
And so it was a very hard and long process. But in that, I started to develop a lot of anxiety. And I've never dealt with anxiety before. And I was scared to be alone because I was always alone in a hospital. I shouldn't say that. My family was there as much as they can be there,
Sure.
especially my father. My father was there day in, day at night. But when you know that you're stuck somewhere, you feel alone. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
so I really dealt with anxiety really bad. And I picked up a habit where I started leaning on anxiety medications. And I started to use it more than what I needed, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And it wasn't because I wanted to harm myself or I wanted to end my life or anything like that. It was just I wanted the days to go by until I became unparalyzed.
Yeah.
And let me just sleep through it so that way I don't have to deal with it, right? And it was only probably a month of heavy use. And I knew what to say to the doctors in order to get more. I learned the system. And rightfully so, I would say that it was needed, but not as much as I was wanting it, right? And so my husband one day, I'm crying to come home, say, please let me come home. Why I thought being paralyzed and I can go home, I don't know. Don't ask me. But I just wanted to come home.
Sure.
And I'm crying to him, and he says, you can't come home like this. And he wasn't meaning paralyzed. He was meaning I could barely hold a conversation because I was, so
Wow.
intoxicated by the anxiety medicines and slurring my words and stuff. And he says, you can't come home like this. I won't let you be in front of the boys like this. And at first, you're not going to tell me when I can come home and,
Yeah.
ready to fight. And then I realized this is a problem. If he sees that I have a problem, then something's definitely going on.
Yeah.
So I sat there and thought about it. And I said, God, I started praying and I said, God, I can't do this without you. All I want to do is just take these meds to put me to sleep until I get better. I need help to get through this without medication. I need help to get through this with the joy of the Lord. I need help to get through this with, and I hope it's okay if I'm speaking like this.
Sure.
Uh, and I want to. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be miserable as I'm going through this. I want people to see that I have the love of God in my heart whenever I'm going through something. So something a little bit about me is I'm a pastor's kid. So I grew up knowing the word. I grew up with knowing all the sayings and what you're supposed to do and blah blah blah, all this stuff. But now it was time for me to act upon it. See, I was always taught that all the answers we need is in the word. But it's different whenever we don't apply the word to actually our situation. We have all the tools that we need, but we don't actually apply it. It's like having a prosthetic and it's sitting on the table and we don't use it. And just because we don't want to or whatever,
Yeah.
but yet it can help us. Like, why wouldn't you use it? And so I started applying what I learned when I was younger. And ever since that moment, I never took another pill. I stopped it right then and there. I was able to get, I had nurses, they finally took the tube out, and I had nurses who would sing hymns with me and just, we also sang Michael Jackson because one of the nurses loved Michael Jackson and blues and stuff like that. So I really started to understand what the joy of the Lord was whenever you're going through something terrible, but yet you're just still happy. You know what I mean? And people couldn't get it. I still don't get it, but that's just how I felt. And fast forward to today, honestly, with everything that's going on, I have learned to love harder, to appreciate things more. I realized I was busy with all the wrong things. And I'm not saying that they were bad things or anything like that, but I had my priorities messed up, if that makes sense. And so
It
I learned
does.
to put things, yeah, I learned things to put things in perspective a lot better. And so it really changed who I was and how I lived my life. Because now, before I would never go to the gym. I used to play basketball. I think we talked about that
We
at
did.
360.
Yeah.
I used to play basketball. I used to do all these things. I used to play piano. And it just, with life, it just disappeared, right? Like, you just got busy and you forgot about it. But now, like the Empower Fest, I was able to ride horses, do rock climbing. I didn't even do rock climbing when I had everything. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? It just makes you want to do things more than you thought you never would want to do, And I met some of the greatest people at
Oh yeah.
Empower Fest.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people say, like, I don't know how you do it with, because I'm also a lash artist. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Oh, you didn't.
So a lash artist with no fingers doesn't make sense, but we make it work. And they're like, I don't know how you do that. And then I look at these people at Empower Fest who are way less than me, doing way more than me. I mean, there was kids climbing that wall like as if they were Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I got up 3 little rocks and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And they're up the whole wall. I mean, it was just amazing to see people who have less doing more. It just made me more excited that, like, hey, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
That was a little tangent. Sorry.
No, I love it. I mean, it really, your attitude, and I want to remind everyone I'm talking to Karlene Martinez, and one of the things you're doing now, because your attitude and everything you've gone through, is you're giving back and you're doing speaking. So I'm cutting to the chase because I have other questions I want to ask you. But if people are just listening, how do they get a hold of you for your speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. The greatest way to get a hold of me right now is through Instagram or Facebook. Facebook, I'm under Karlene Martinez, and that's Karlene Martinez. And on Instagram, it's limitless Karlene. Excuse me, let me say that again. Limitless Karlene. And limitless is spelled LIMB.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way you can kind of get the, limb it lists.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, you spelled it wrong. And I was like, nope, just read it again. You'll get it. You'll get it later.
You'll get it. That's why I call this We're
Yeah,
Not Stumped. It's kind of the same thing,
exactly.
kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of way of looking at how our
Right.
lives are. Now, you talked about your husband. I
Exactly.
didn't get a chance to meet him personally, but I did see him at Ability
Yes.
360. What is his name?
His name's Rudy Martinez.
Rudy Martinez. Okay, good.
Yes,
I just wanted to give him a shout out because it seemed like, as you were saying, the caregivers sometimes go through a lot as well. So great job.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. And he's been wonderful. He's also, his only rule for me is if I travel, I need to have somebody with me, which at first, again, I'm a very independent person. I copped an attitude, right? You're not going to tell me if I can go or not. I'm go. And then the first travel that I went on, I went with my cousin, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was so right. Don't tell him I said that, but he was so right. I needed someone to help me with my luggage, the wheelchairs, there's so much more going into traveling that I realized. And so I get that role now. But he has always been supportive about me going traveling and speaking. Here I probably would see, I went to Washington, North Carolina. I a lot of different traveling, and he makes it very easy to go. So I appreciate that with him. And then when we get a chance to actually enjoy something like Empower Fest, I'm like, come on, you're going. We're gonna go ride horses. We're gonna, go
shoot
dance
hoop.
and all this stuff. Yeah, shoot hoops,
Yeah,
exactly.
because the three of
So
us were all
something
shooting
for the
hoop at the
kids.
same time. It
Yeah,
was so much fun.
yeah,
It was so much fun.
yeah.
So
Did you get a chance to try the wheelchair basketball?
I did not. I didn't get in a wheelchair, but I was just shooting
Oh,
hoop. As,
it
I was doing
10 times
one-handed
harder.
basketball.
Yeah.
But Ability 360, and for those that don't know, I'm on the board of directors at that great organization. I can't say enough about it. I've had the CEO Chris Rodriguez on the program. I've also had Nick Pryor, who was there. He's in charge of the athletic area at Ability 360.
Oh,
There's everyone at Ability 360. Gus, Megan. I mean, we're talking the top-notch organization. I just want to give them a little shout out because we were both there, had a really good time. But when I talk about
yeah.
your journey and where you're at, and actually, let me ask this question. Was there a chance that you were going to stay paralyzed, or was this something that was going to wear off eventually?
Yes. So there is a high chance, um, or excuse me, a low chance in order to stay permanently paralyzed. There are people that pass away because of complications of being paralyzed,
Yeah.
like their airways and stuff like that. But the normal range is usually, they say, from 3 months to 3 years.
Wow.
But we had no idea how long it was going to be. And I
Wow.
think that's the part that gave me the anxiety, is how
Sure.
long am I going to stay like this? And I'm a very on the go person. So to sit there and do absolutely nothing, was just one of the hardest things. I did watch a lot of my 600-pound life. Why? I don't know. But that's mostly what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it was an unknowing for sure throughout the whole month. And then an unknowing if what might stay affected
Yeah.
and what doesn't. So yes, I was feeling things from my legs and my arms to kind of tingling and moving, but my organs were paralyzed as well. So is that going to stay paralyzed? Like,
Yeah.
what exactly is going to happen? So a lot of unknown during that time for sure.
And as you're going through this, I don't know the exact chronological order of this, but obviously we've talked about your prosthetics and point designs in particular.
Yes.
At what point, how did that journey go for you? Was there anything that stood out, things you didn't know, things you've learned that you could maybe share with the audience?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I had for my pain would be for my leg. My leg, it was I have like a bone kind of sticking out a little bit.
Okay.
So in order to cast it has always kind of been a problem. It's been difficult to build support where the bone's not constantly rubbing on my prosthetic. So we tried different feet, we tried different ankle supports, and just different items that maybe can relieve that. And so that has been the biggest struggle, I feel like. And it's been a very long process. And then I met my new, I can't say this word, please forgive me, prostheticist.
Yeah.
my, the guy who builds it.
Yes. Go.
His name is Jake over at Hanger Clinic, and he was new at the time. And I was about 6 months out of being paralyzed, so I hadn't really had a leg yet, and a good one that is gonna keep up with my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we're both learning together, and we tried different tapes, different uh, uh, um, suctions, and different ways to build because of the hand situation. There's certain things like a pin type of leg prosthetic. I can't do it because my hands won't do it.
Yeah.
So right now I have a suction with a button, and I told him that I will never change. That is going to be Karlene's way of leg. So we got that down, and then we found. I said I feel like when I walk on my prosthetic, it's almost like it's dead, like it's just heavy weight that I'm having to carry. And so, is there anything that I can do to like, I don't know, have a spring or like give energy back? Because how when you walk, it works is your energy comes from the top to the bottom into your leg, and then when you step, your leg brings back up the energy. And so I wanted something that could bring it back up. So he suggested it was almost like a running blade, but almost an everyday use one. So it's shaped like a running blade. It's called the Blatchford XT. And I was like, well, it kind of looks very obvious. I don't know. Like I kind of wanted to blend in a little bit. He's like, oh, just try it, just try it. And I said, okay. I put it on and I started walking, and I was sold ever since.
Wow.
It's like I've never had issues with my bone on hitting the thing um as bad or making cuts and stuff like that. Like, and it gives me the support I need if I wanted to go from washing dishes to playing soccer with the boys. It's all in one. You know what I mean? So I absolutely loved it. And then for my hands, I did try the harness. And please forgive me, I don't know all the terms
That's
correctly.
okay.
I did try the harness with the like what you had, the little two prongs and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the hook, basically. Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's like I'm dyslexic when it comes to it. I just cannot figure out how to work it. And so I kind of gave up on that after 7 months. They gave me a prosthetic, just like a hand looking one. So if I ever do special occasions or anything like that, I can use that. Honestly, I probably have only used it twice because it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I really don't use it. And then I said, I need something to help me in the gym because I can't do pull downs. I can't do what I need to because I don't have uh, what I need,
Yeah.
and I just need some help. So then they had, Anchor had said something about point design. So I
Yeah.
was looking at Mayo Clinic, Mayo Electric, excuse me, and insurance, of course, won't cover it and all this stuff. There's all this legal tape around it. And I was like, I don't know how I can get that. They're like, let's try point design. I think that will really. So I got something called the iDigits, and I actually have it right here.
Oh, let's take a
I
look.
don't know if you saw it in the at the place. So I got it all chromed out, uh, so that way it can look really cool.
It
But what I
does.
do is when I pull it down, and I'll send you some videos. I use it for pull downs. I use
Yeah.
it for to grab everything. So this is my helper, definitely in the gym. And for any amputees that want to know, I also use these a lot, which you can find on Amazon. A lot of people don't realize I didn't until I saw someone on TikTok use it. And I use this in the gym a lot too.
Excellent.
You really just have to find things that everyday people use and turn it for us. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And just learn how different ways to use it. For instance, I have ankle straps that people use in the gym. I don't use it for my ankles. I use it for my hands. So you just got to
Perfect.
turn other things into things to help you for sure.
Yeah, I
So
made my own prosthetic to lift weights and with PVC. I mean,
there you
exactly.
go.
You know,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do. And I do want to give out a shout out, or do want to give a shout out to Point Designs. I've had Levin Sliker, he was the CEO and one of the founders, if not the founder of the organization, and Angie Coe and Jeff Solberg have both been on. They're ambassadors, and I know that's a great product. I hear nothing but great things about it. I didn't see
Yes.
yours. I love the way it looks, so I think it looks
Oh yeah.
fantastic.
I made it nice and shiny so everyone can see it.
And what was the name of the blade you said? I want to make sure we get that out.
Blatchford XT. Uh,
Blatchford XT.
yes.
So anyone listening, that sounds like a great product too. If anyone from that organization wants to come on the podcast and maybe talk a little bit about it, I'd love to have them on here. What is
Yes.
something that you've gone through, something that maybe you learned about being in the limb loss community that maybe you didn't know before you were part of it yourself?
Oh, so much. I don't even know where to start. There's just so much. One is, I would say, can I go through a few? Is that okay?
Please.
Okay, so one is how accessible the world is. I want to say which is crazy to me how inaccessible it is.
Yeah.
And yet America has the most accessibility from what I understand.
Yeah.
And it's still yet to even meet half of the requirements that I would need. For instance, at a Power Fest, the hotel we stayed at, um, it was very difficult. They said it was a walk-in shower, but there was like a lifted bottom portion where I had to wear my lip. It was just a mess, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people do, and it's not their fault. They just don't understand.
Sure.
Hey, I need my wheelchair to transfer, so I can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different things. The other thing I would learn is the support. I did not realize, for instance, Hanger Clinic or Amputee Coalition has so much support that I
Yeah.
didn't even realize even existed, right? There was a whole community that I didn't even realize that
Yeah.
existed. And to find support in that. I would say the third thing, and I'll probably leave it at this, is um, how people react.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a sense of humor about it. Okay. I absolutely love to make people feel awkward. It's terrible. I know.
I love it.
It's fun for me. I don't know. It's like, if you're going to feel awkward, let me make fun of it. Right. So for the kids, I tell them that I used to work at Jurassic Park. Tom the T-Rex got out, I had to fight him. So that I don't know if you can see all my scars and everything. He scratched me, but I got him back, and the kids just love it. And then for the adults, it's a little different. You get two types of people, I feel like. You get ones that ask questions, which I love. I rather you ask me so that we can understand each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you get the type that don't want to ask because they don't want to be obvious, but they're just completely ignoring you. Like you don't even exist. I'm like, I'm standing or sitting, whatever we're doing, right here, and you're like, you could tell they're like, don't look at her. And so
Yeah.
I rather you stare at me so I can say, hey, let me tell you what happened, or let me tell you how good God is because I survived, instead of you just staring at me awkwardly, you know. And so I think dealing with that and navigating that has been a struggle. I finally, probably, I would say at the beginning of this year, just learned to say, it is what it is. Kids point and scream because they're kids.
Yeah.
I think my kids when I'm at school are getting to the age where they're a little embarrassed of me
Mm.
because I'm always like, hey, you got a question, ask me. And so I'm trying to chill back a little bit and stay, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but let them kind of go off of what they're feeling, you know what I mean? And so we're navigating that, but it's just learning how to deal with other people, I think, is the biggest thing, for
When you
sure.
talk about your humor, do you think that's something that helps, like being a little self-deprecating in your own situation? Seems like it brings people in. Is that something you found in your life?
Yes. I think I also feel like if you can't laugh at the situation, like life's too short to be so serious and depressed about it.
Yeah.
I make jokes all the time. People are like, Karlene, and I'm like, it's just it is. You gotta laugh. You know what I mean? And I find joy in it, and I only because I think it's funny. I have a twisted dark sense of humor. I don't know, but it's also just a way for me to express maybe just the joy I have. And even though this situation might suck, it's actually turned uh for the better. Like I said earlier, in my relationships and in how I view the world and stuff like that. And so if I just laugh about it, and I gotta poke fun at myself. So
I'll ask you this last question. There's going to be people that are maybe in their own hospital bed going through some of the things that you went through listening to this podcast. Because one of the things that I remember when I went through cancer, I'm trying to look up things, and you get to WebMD, and it's like the worst thing. God bless WebMD. I'm not trying to put them down, but it's more
it will
technical.
tell you you're gonna die if you just have to
And that's
search for
exactly what I
something.
thought, because it's
Yeah,
very technical in nature. And that's why I started the podcast, because of stories like you and people being able to come across these stories instead of like a WebMD and hearing the technical part of what's going on. Let's hear the
right.
people part. So if you were able to speak to someone right now that may be in a hospital bed going through what you went through, what is some advice you'd give them?
I would definitely say create a tight-knit circle. You're going to need it. You're going to need support. And whether or not that be family, doctors, friends, cousins, pets, whatever it is, you're going to need support. I would say that. And then I would also say, the Bible says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. I believe it's Nehemiah 8:10. And every time I felt like, Lord, I can't do this, I would remember the joy of the Lord is my strength. Or Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I really had to lean on those scriptures in order to pull myself out of, my leg hurts, I can't walk on it. Okay, well, tomorrow's a new day. We're going to reset and do it again. And to the point where, I'm bench pressing, I'm leg lifting, almost 200 pounds now. And every day to get to this point, I have to tell myself that. Even though I'm doing well now, I still have days. You know what I mean? And we're going to have days. We're going to have setbacks. Pretty soon I'm going to have a revision on my leg. To me, that's a setback, but I have to remind myself that I can do all things. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And just to keep positive, because I can do all things. It might be differently than everyone else, but I can do it. So just remember that. Have a tight-knit circle and remember that you can do it.
That's excellent advice. And what comes up a lot on the podcast is exactly what you said. There's going to be good days and bad days, but at the end of the day, that's a human condition. And really,
Yeah.
it happens to everyone out there. So we understand if people are listening and maybe they're a little down. Think of a Karlene Martinez who has such a great attitude and have come such a long way. Karlene, thank you so much for being on the We're Not Stumped podcast. I really appreciate it. It was great to get to know you. And it was really fun shooting hoop with you at Ability 360.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to go back to Ability 360. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's one of the coolest places. I didn't even know something like that existed. And if I was a Phoenix, I would probably be there every day. So definitely check it out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, here we are at the end of another great podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I bet you're wondering, gosh, I'd like to be on that podcast. I wonder if Mike would like to have me on. Well, why don't you go to we'renotstumped.com, go to guest inquiries, and you can find out everything you need to know about being a guest on this podcast. I would love to have you on. And by the way, if you made it this far, if you went down this far to this point of the We're Not Stumped podcast, do me a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Especially share it. Come on, you got friends. You got at least one friend. You have as many friends as I have hands, so you have one friend. Please share this podcast. Thank you.